Okay, welcome to everybody that is online and here, third in this series on blogging. And the library has a YouTube channel, so any of the other ones are up on the YouTube channel if you want to look there. And we will get started. This is tips, tricks, and resources for a successful blog. Susan Macias. Have been blogging for years, have done many things wrong and learned lots and lots of lessons from that. That's what I'm going to share with you tonight. The good thing to realize as you are getting ready to go blogging is that this is what's normal. We don't know what to say, we don't know where to start, and we don't have time to get it written. As long as you know that that is normal, it no longer gets to be an excuse. It is simply the state of things. And this is where we're going to start, but we're going to move forward and find what is useful to do. E.B. White said, I admire anybody who has the guts to write anything at all, because writing is hard. It's not easy. And it's not easy to sustain over a period of time. And so that what you're doing is a noble thing. It is not an easy thing. Things you need to know. That's what we're going to start with, the first half of this. What are the things you need to know to have a successful blog? Know your why. That's the first thing you need to know. Why are you doing this? What's your mission? What are you wanting to accomplish? And what is that going to look like? Because how are you going to define success if you don't know what it is you're aiming for in the first place? What do you write? And who is it for? And what is it that you want to happen? I write encouragement and exhortation for empty nest women so that they will find places to live useful lives. That is a mission statement. And that is my why. Because I want there to be an outcome. It's really hard to sustain continual writing and other things if you don't know why you're doing it. The next thing you need to know besides your why is your who. Who is the person that you see reading your writing? You might think, I'm going to write for anyone. Or even more, I'm going to write for everyone. And the saying is, if you write for everyone, you write for no one. Because you don't have a focused person that you are going towards. And you won't have enough specific information in order for your writing to be meaningful. You have to know your who. But who is my who? How do you figure out who it is you're writing to? What is my niche or niche, depending upon how you want to say it? Both are acceptable. The saying that's going around these days in online stuff is the riches are in the niches. Because if you are going to have something that you are going to sell, you're going to produce, it needs to be for a specific group of people. It's just too loud out there. There are too many options. It has to be specific. So is it male or female? Who are you writing towards? That's important to know because messages go differently. What age group? Is it for young people? Is it for retired? Is it for those tired moms at home with toddlers, or the moms with teenagers, or the moms with college students, or women who were never moms? Who is it for? What belief system? Is it a religious blog? Is it an environmental blog? Is it a healthy cooking blog? What are the belief systems you are assuming for the reader of your work? And what is your topic of interest? So Mary, if you're writing about travel, that is part of your niche. But you want to get even more specific than that because you want to ask what's the pain point that you are talking to your readers about. What is their problem that they are looking for a solution? Because we don't go to Google and say, find me something interesting that's well written and let Google pop up a blog. We go into Google to say, what is a good restaurant in Portland, Oregon when I go visit it next week? We want a specific answer to specific questions. What's the pain point? What's the problem you need to solve? That's what you want to address in your blog. So we have our who, we have our why. Now we need to know our what. Your what? What are you going to write? What is your what? What is your topic? What is your angle that you are approaching that topic? So if we're talking travel, are we talking about how to do it economically, how to find the best historic sites, traveling by restaurants? These are the best cities to go to because of these restaurants. These are the experiences. This is the thing you're going to find that nobody else knows about. What's your angle that you're coming at your problem from? What's your tone? Is it humorous? Is it more conversational? Is it more like a magazine article? Those are actually very different tones that you can have in the way that you are writing and presenting your information. And what's the purpose? When you have somebody that reads that article, what is the thing they're going to come away with on the other end? What's the purpose of what you're writing? And if you keep that big purpose of what your big blog purpose, not just necessarily an individual piece of writing, but your big purpose, then you're going to continually aim that way. We cannot aim, we can't hit what we don't aim at. So it's having an aim for your what. To have a successful blog, you need to know your when, because it's a lot about consistency. Consistency is the most important thing in developing a place where people can come find good information. How often are you going to blog? Once a week? Once a month? Every other week? People say, I'm going to blog every day. And that's a challenge. There you go. That's sort of like, let's climb Mount Everest the next year because it's about as hard. What can you sustain? So it's easy to say, I will do it every week. But you need to make sure you understand the workflow of what is involved in getting a blog done. You got to write it, you have to edit it, you might have to find images, you have to upload it, you have to figure out these other things. And so you want to make sure what is a reasonable amount to sustain. It's better to start slowly and add more often, up your increment of time. It might be better to start every other week and then get to once a week. It might be better to say, I'm going to do once a week, but then I'll start where I do a short tip on Tuesday and then a full-length blog on Friday. But don't start there. Start with what is easy to sustain and that you can do several months in a row. And don't be afraid to start again. If you don't get a blog up for a month or two, that's okay. You don't have to go on and explain why you didn't have anything on the last few months. Because most likely if someone reads your blog, they're not going to have known what you did or did not do before. It's just something they opened up to. So you can just jump right back in and again, aim for consistency. Because you know what? There's not enough time. There's not enough time. So you have to find the things that will help you make the time or choose the time, because we can't actually make time. We just have to use the time that we have in ways that will make it work. And the best way to do that is to schedule it. Because if you schedule it, you will get it done. Most of us can't say, I'm going to work 8 hours on Tuesday on a blog. That just we wouldn't have that much time. But you could schedule small increments through your week. It's making a choice. Jerry Jenkins, who's an incredibly prolific author, had a full-time job for years. And he would get up every morning at 4:30 and he would write for 2 hours because he didn't want the time at the end of the day being taken away from his kids. He didn't want to come home from work and then work more. He wanted to be with his family. So he would do it very, very early in the morning. And he made it a habit and he scheduled it. If you do the same time on the same days, it's much easier to, once again, sustain. Craft your environment. What do you need to have your best writing? I need headphones in so I can't hear anybody else. I need some, for me, classical music. Several places you can type in classical for studying or classical for reading. Those are the ones I go to because they're the more calm classical music. And it's just background noise. It helps me. I like to go to coffee shops. I like to come to the library because then I can't move the laundry from the washer to the dryer. I'm not there. I can't go get dinner started. All of those distractions are just I'm removed from. And I can say, I only have 2 hours. I need to get busy. I put in my headphones and go. Okay, so we have our who, our what, our when, and our why. Now what? Now we have these ideas. These are the big picture ideas. What are we going to do? We're going to write. And when we write and when we post blogs, we want to attract readers. Because as terrified as we are that somebody might read what we wrote, we want somebody to read what we wrote. And that's why we do it, and that's why we put it up there. So we want to attract readers to our blog. And the great thing about blogging is that you can just do it and do it and do it and do it and then finally worry about attracting readers. Like it's better to get in the habit. It's better to get a quantity of great content on your blog and then add in the next things we're going to talk about. Because the hardest part is getting the work up there. And then we can work on some other things. So I'm going to use some terms. We're going to talk about some things. This is not do all of this tomorrow. One of the main things you want to know that you're going to hear in anything that you go read, anything you look up on Google or watch on YouTube, they're going to talk about keywords. Keyword is, and this is straight off of a website, keyword is any search term entered on Google. So if you enter restaurant in Portland, Oregon, restaurant in Portland, Oregon are keywords. Because those are the words Google's gonna, however it magically does, through the millions of offerings, and pop up some websites for you to go to. Keywords are the search term that a website owner or SEO professional will use to optimize a website. What does that mean? It means that you want to have the words within your website that people are searching for. If we're writing beautiful content, but people can't find it, then how are they going to read it? And that is what the point of thinking about keywords is for. That is why we go to the trouble to worry about this, is because we want the content to be findable. So search engines. Search engines are what people use to go through all of the information out there that people are going to pull from. Search engines are obviously Google. That's the most one, the biggest one that's used. Bing is a search engine. YouTube is a search engine, but it's not searching through the entire web. It's only searching through what is uploaded to YouTube. Pinterest is the same way. Pinterest is not a social media platform. It's a search engine platform that will search through what has been pinned on there. So it has to have been pinned to be available to be found. And it's its own animal. Like there are people that actually grow a big following by really concentrating on Pinterest, but it's its own thing. Like you have to study it and learn how to do it. So now we know we have search engines, right? And we have search engine optimization, SEO. And everybody will, if you're online looking at all the stuff about what to do with your blog, it will talk about your SEO. Have you optimized, have you made your content as good as possible to be searchable and to be found? And everybody that is a Christian, that's just a creative in the system that is out there, that is writing, that is producing any material at all goes, SEO, because it's just a reality that you have to figure out how to work with if you want somebody to find your work. Now, here's the disclaimer. It's not the first thing to work on. Google has a lot of things it actually puts into its algorithms. And one of them is the quantity of material on a blog. So having one blog that has lots of good information and then nothing else, that won't be shown very highly. Because they want to know not only do you have that blog up, but that you have other things people could find. Now, how it figures all that out? I don't know, but it does. So the disclaimer is the first thing to do is to write. The next thing is to consistently put it up. The next thing is to get more and more clear about who it is you're writing for. So you're honing in and you're aiming. What is your main topic? What are the pain points that you want to address? So you're a reliable source. And as you're doing all that, then you can start figuring out, how do I make sure the right words are in the places that they need to be for people to find my material? So how do we make our blog better? If you have an existing blog, what do you do to make the blog better? One of the first things is to have images. Images are very important. They draw people in. When you have just a blog and it's long and it's a whole bunch of words, people go, it's just too much. But pictures breaking it up are a lovely thing. I do not have time to go out and also take pictures that will be lovely enough to get up on my blog. So there are a lot of great places to find free images. This matters where you get your images from. My husband, with his company last year, somebody was doing some blogging for them. They put up a blog, it had a picture in it. A couple of weeks later, they got an email, thank you for using our picture. That will be $2,000, please. And they had to pay for the use of the picture because it was not a free picture. You need to make sure that your pictures are free. It is to your best interest to know what is the licensing of the picture. So the way that I do that is I go to specific websites that I know have free images. All the images within this presentation are from these free websites. So Unsplash is my favorite, and it's really there. It's been around for a while, and now there are other ones that have pretty pictures like they did. I just liked it. Beautiful pictures. They were easy to search. There is not any sort of guarantee on any of these photo sites that they're all G-rated photos. Okay, so but you just search. It'll be a search bar, and you'll say what you want to find. Pixabay also has free pictures. Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S, Stocksnap.io is a new one that I found in doing the research for this, and Reshot. Both of those are new ones to me, and I did some looking through. They have lovely photos. And it will say very clearly, this is free. When I use a free photo on my website, I attribute it to the photographer. And they'll tell you, this is the photographer, and I will take their little, give the name and something with the picture, and you can just copy it and put it in your image description. Because I think that person took the picture, they should get some credit. And so that's just a way that you can kind of give back to the photographer. Yes, yes. Why don't we wait till the end? Write your question down though so you don't forget. The next thing you need to do is look at your titles. Keywords, we're coming back to that word, are very important in your title. And this has been my longest, hardest lesson in blogging because I like creative titles. I like funky titles that are, enticing. That does not work with search engines. And someone, I just read this the other day, and it was like for the first time I went, oh, okay. This is not a book or magazine. This is a blog post. And a blog post does not need a catchy title. It needs a title with the words in it that people will be searching for so they can find the information. The other place you want it is both in your title and then within your blog. There should be, there's several forms of headings when you are in the, where you're doing the actual typing. The H2 or heading 2 is the second most important place to put your keywords, in your title and in those headings. and for some reason not heading 1, but heading 2. It's not quite so big. I think it's more likely to break up the words in your content. And it's good to break up your content with headings so people can scroll to find what they want to find. They find your blog easy to read, they'll want to come back to read it again when you write about the next thing. So this is a heading 2. This is off my blog. And so that's, it's bigger. I have it where mine's a little bit different color. This is the description for the picture. And so I have since learned, and I'm actually this fall going to really work on updating my blog post. On the images, you should put keyword-rich content on your images, which means whatever your keywords are for that blog post, you should also put them in your image descriptions, because that is something else that Google searches. So the more it's showing up in your blog post, the more it looks like it's answering the question of the person that's asking. And that's what you want. Another way of making your blog better is, what are you writing about? What are people searching for? What do people want to know? Well, I mean, we could stand around here and talk, right? And say, well, what do you think they want to know? Well, I don't know. What do you think they want to know? But the best way is to do a little research. And this is just a way you can sit down at some point to say, what am I going to write about for the next month or 2? Because planning is another way to help that content keep being regular. If you're not having to every week come up with a new subject, but already have your subjects ready, it's a great way to take that pressure off on a weekly basis. So how are we going to find out what people want? How do we do that? So the first way we're going to find our subjects is through Google. So I put into Google empty nest. And when I did empty nest, there's a show empty nest. There's always a lot of stuff on there. So I started writing out problems, and Google auto-populates. Do you want this one? Are you looking for this one? How about this one? And the things they're suggesting are things people look for. So when I look at this list, I could write about empty nest with marriage, empty nest with those other relationships. What's empty nest syndrome? What are tips? What are ideas? So I use empty nest tips, 5 tips for empty nest fun. And then I am going with the words. Those are key words. I'm putting it in my title. I'm going to repeat it in my headings. I'm going to have it under my pictures. So when people look up the idea of what are some empty nest tips, because I'm just confused by this whole empty nest thing, they're going to find those articles that answer the questions most. And you can do something like this and just write down 5 ideas. Or you could say empty nest, get rid of the problem and start with another word. I heard somebody else say they just, like if they know they're going to write about, let's just keep with the empty nest, and they'll just put empty nest B and see what words come up. And then take care of that empty nest C and just see what words come up. Because they may not even think of the word that would come up. And you're just culling for ideas. These are ideas that people search for. And once you have a list of ideas, it's a lot easier to do those consistent blog posts. This is one I just learned last week. I thought this was a brilliant idea. This is using Amazon to find ideas about what to write. So you look up a book on your subject. So this one, Empty Nest, Full Life, Discovering God's Best for Your Next. Okay, that sounds like it could fit. So you can see here it has very good ratings, but it's not all 5-star. And that's very important because what we're looking for are the 3 or 4-star ratings. We don't want the 1 or 2-star ratings. Those are just the grumpy people that are just want to be unhappy about something. So we're looking for the 3 and 4-star. So here was a 3-star review about this book. And this is where I pick up a gem. The big reason I picked up this book is to answer my own issues about what is really next for me. I have no idea. And I felt more frustrated after reading this book. I will say the author helped me identify I'd done a great job as a parent of adult kids. I'm more interested at this time in what's next for me rather than continuing to identify how I can be an appropriate parent of adult kids. That is a pain point. What do I do now? Great. I did okay as a parent. I didn't lose anybody all those years. So now what am I supposed to do? So this, for me, is an idea factory. I can come up with stuff. I can take that, go back to Google, look up things. But so it's looking for pain points that people are questioning about within whatever is your niche, whatever. And then ask. Ask people who are in your ideal audience, your friends, or if you have readers, ask them what would you like to hear about? What are the questions you have? Ask on a Facebook post. If you have friends that might share with you on there, get some people and have them over for coffee and say, I want to write about this. What would you want to know? And just ask them. People love to have their opinions be valued. And then you're getting real life people telling you, this is what matters to me. And collect all these ideas. Have some sort of system to keep them together so that you can have ideas to go to when you're supposed to write another blog post for next week and you don't have any idea what to write on. And then you can open it up. You can plan a month or two ahead. One thing I don't have a slide for, but that is very helpful, is to try and do a bunch of writing at one time. Like sit down and maybe over a couple of days, you can write several blogs on similar subjects so that you have this kind of bank of information that you can come from, bank of writing you can come from. And so then you're not having to every week come up with something. You can have them scheduled ahead. And it makes all the difference. So why blog? Because your writing matters. You have something to say that is unique from anybody else. You have stories that no one else has. You have a perspective that you are bringing to the situation that is different from anybody else's. Michelangelo, they discovered this little note folded on a piece of paper, and in his, it was in his big studio, and he had lots and lots of apprentices. And this is what it said: draw, Antonio, draw, Antonio, draw, and do not waste time. The only way that we are going to become better writers or bloggers or communicators is by doing it. That is the only way. We can't wait to get great to get started. We have to get started. I think it is important in all of these things. This is a lot of information and things to do, but the reality, start simple. Start as simple as you can and get started, and then add something on every now and then. And then once you feel comfortable with that, do a little bit more. Because there's lots of ideas and suggestions out there, but the reality is none of them matter unless we're actually out there producing content and getting it online. And so we've just got to do it. Inspiration usually comes during work, not before it. Madeline L'Engle. So when you hear these great authors say something like that, it's like, okay, it's not just me. It's not because I don't have the magic touch, because obviously the people who really write beautiful things have the magic touch. No, it's that they did it when they didn't feel the magic, and they did it anyway. And to be a blogger, you're going to have to become a writer. And that hidden benefit of blogging I talked about last week was it was all the blogging that made me a better writer. I have learned more by doing it. I'm faster now. I have a cadence. I know it, but it was only from years and years of doing it. Just write, get better, keep writing, keep getting better. It's the only thing you can control. When we put our stuff out into the blogosphere, we really can't control how many people will read it or ever see it. We can't control who's going to read it, and usually the ones that are bothered to leave a comment might be the ones who are snitty and disagree with you. We can't control them either unless we get to approve comments. If you approve comments, then you can control them, because you just can trash their comment. But the reality is that we can't control so much, but we can control what we do. And we can control doing it. That's what's under our purview. And it's hard for everybody. And that's a good thing to remember when you're going, but it's hard. Yep, it is. And all those hard things are the ones worth doing. Writing is easy. All you do is stare at a blank sheet of paper until drops of blood form on your forehead. Hemingway said there's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and open a vein. That you are pouring out of you onto the page. But it's the only way to get better is to keep doing it. So blogging is what got me into saying I was a writer. I started buying writing books. I started looking at computer programs that helped me organize what I was doing. I went to conferences. I took courses. I got on YouTube. There is so much free information on YouTube. It's unbelievable. Judy Waters has free information on YouTube. There's so many podcasts for writing. Like, there's no reason we'd have to spend a penny before we got a whole lot better at what we're doing, just by paying attention to not only writing, but learning how to be a better writer. Some of my favorite books on writing, Stephen King, his title of his book is On Writing. And so funny, I read this book many years ago, and just this summer I listened to it. And I think when I read it, I just kind of hop over all the foul language. And I heard it when I was listening to it, and I'm like, here he is. He goes on and on about not adding adverbs and not too many adjectives, and yet he puts all those words in there. And I'm like, I really think you could edit a little bit more. Follow your own advice. But he has his content is very good. It's a memoir, so it's not so much a lesson by lesson. It's a memoir, but there's just a lot of great writing lessons in it. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott is one of my very favorites. It is also sort of a memoir, but she goes a little bit more instructional. The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, that is at this library, is where I checked it out and read it from. Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Inner Creative Battles. And it's sort of that thing where you realize that it's just can be hard. And once you identify it, you go, okay, it's hard. And he calls it resistance, with capital R, like it's a title of a person. And resistance is the thing that gets in the way of writing. And then The Art of War for Writers by James Scott Bell is fabulous. Short chapters, lots of great information. But the writing books out there are just amazing. And they're very, very helpful. And you just have to choose to write. These are some of my quotes that I use to remind myself to keep making the choice. The 6 golden rules of writing: read, 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 and write, write, write. If you wait for inspiration to write, you're not a writer, you're a waiter. And that's that idea about don't wait till it's easy. Don't wait till you have everything perfectly ready. Get out there and write, put it out there, force yourself to do it again and again. It's the draw, Antonio kind of process. We just have to keep doing it and put it out there. You can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page. That's one of my favorite ones because, it's just, there's nothing like that blank page with the little blinking cursor. And you just look at it and you think, I don't know, what do I even start with? But you don't have to use the first sentence you write, but you have to write the first sentence to get to the second sentence and the third sentence. And once you get those sentences all on the page, you can figure out which ones do I want to keep. And where actually do I want to start? Oh, this actually down here at the bottom, I'm going to move that up to the top. That's going to be a much better start to this because you can edit it. Be brave, keep writing, and keep posting. That's how we become a better blogger. And honestly, all of these tips here that are all about honing the focus, aiming at the target, aiming at who you're writing to, what you're writing about, and then finding out what people want to know through going into Google, through going into Amazon or other sources of information, or just helping you tell your message that you've been given to as many people as possible. So these are the same websites as I had last week. Jonathan Milligan is the blogging guy. and I think Blogging Bistro are the two that I would recommend the highest for blogging. For the organization, it's Do a New Thing. This is my writing. I have these books on Amazon and then on my website, and that's where I write. And it's for me. Don't think I would have ever been brave enough to publish a book if I hadn't first had to be brave a little bit by doing a blog. So it's that idea that you build your muscles in steps. And I'm also on social media. If you want to connect, I would love to connect with you there.